Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and it has transformed into a winter wonderland here in southeastern Michigan. We've spent the last week exploring it with the Mitsubishi Outlander. This looks a little different from the last one because it is entirely different. Not only is it entirely redone for 2022, but it's actually not made by Mitsubishi at all. This underneath is a Nissan Rogue, but it's been a little bit kind of stretched out, optimized, given a Mitsubishi flair, and kind of made its own. So you'll see a lot of parallels between this and the Nissan Rogue, but at the end of the day, it is a different vehicle, a lot of different attributes, and it's certainly more worth your attention than the previous generation Outlander. Little bit of a walk around before we get behind the wheel. You know, us here at Daily Motor, I care most about what it's like to drive, but it is important to talk a little bit about the other aspects of the car, especially for a vehicle like this. In the rear, you do have a small bit of underfloor storage. In fact, I kind of like that they put a spot for not only this cargo cover that you can take out and install, but also the headrests for the third row, because yes, even in this size vehicle, we have third row seating. Now, they really had to get compact with a lot of this. Just take a look at how minimal that foot and legroom is. So it's pretty much only useful for a child. Just kind of go around here and take a look at it from the second row. These beautiful second row seats. Hold this down, maybe, or kind of slide it back. I could just barely get my feet right there. My knees would be pretty much in my jaw. But there is enough headroom for an adult, and at the end of the day, sometimes you just need to transport maybe a few of your kids or a few of your kids' friends. If this is the type of vehicle that you don't plan on using the third row on often, it actually might be kind of nice to have that option back there for the few times you need it. But at the end of the day, it just gives you a pretty good amount of cargo space, and actually, it is a really good amount of cargo space for this size of vehicle. We were doing some calculations earlier. It actually has more interior space than the Ford Edge, which I found surprising because the Edge is overall a bit larger vehicle, but Mitsubishi/Nissan have really done a good job at optimizing the space in this thing. From the back seat, it's really not a bad place to be either. You've got reclining seats. I've got a nice recline right now. You've got these sunshades that can come up, protect your babies or your people, whoever doesn't want sun on their face. Got kind of a center flip down armrest. Technically this whole thing just split folds. It's sort of a 40-20-40 split, and then get some cup holders in there and a place to rest your arm, although this is all hard plastic. Not the most comfortable place for a person to rest their elbows. What is all this crap we got on there? It's like salt or something. Huh. Second row passengers also enjoy some heated seats, some climate control, and some vents. But taking a look around that front, that is where this thing really gets beautiful. Even in the rear, you got these quilted leather seats. You can see all the recline that you can get, and a relatively panoramic sunroof. Not too bad. Before we get in, we should also note these big 20-inch wheels on this SEL trim. Not necessarily the best for ride quality because you've only got 45 aspect ratio tires, so you do feel more of the road imperfections, but they look good at least. Nice pretty white paint as well. We've got it quite dirty from 800 plus miles of running around in slush and snow and grossness. It's easy entry seat that moves forward for you when you start the car. A lot of good things on paper here in the Outlander. Got good fuel economy. We managed 31 miles per gallon on our highway fuel economy test, and over this past week, what have we gotten? I think we're up to about 28 miles per gallon. 27.9 over, I've only done 700 miles of driving. Look at me lying to y'all. Still, 28 miles per gallon. A good mixture of highway and some harder city type driving as well. The other things Mitsubishi does well on paper, it's got a very long warranty. 10 years Powertrain, 5 years, 60,000 mile bumper to bumper. You don't get that with many brands. You get that with Hyundai, Kia, so that's important to remember, but you're not going to see that with Toyota or Honda, Nissan even though this is ultimately a Nissan Rogue at the end of the day underneath. If you're going in between those two cars, this one gets you a longer warranty, and I would argue looks a little better. I mean, appearance is definitely in the eye of the beholder, but I think think this looks a little bit better than the Rogue. This also has a lot of your must-have features on paper. You've got heated seats, heated steering wheel, a 360-degree camera, a 3-zone climate control, USB-A and USB-C, wireless Apple CarPlay, no wireless Android Auto, but if you do want to see more on that, check the link in the description for our review of the 10-speaker Bose audio system. There's only been one thing in the week that I've had the car that I've been like, how does this car not have that? And that's remote start. I will say it's possible that you can do it through some sort of Mitsubishi app, but come on, it's nice to just whip out your key and be able to remote start the vehicle. It's minor, but when you're dealing with snow cover in the car, it's something nice to have. Objectively speaking, looking at the build sheets, this is not really any problem with that. This one's coming in about $38,000. So it's competitively priced, it's got everything you need, and looks the part and has the numbers. When you dig a little bit deeper and actually just spend time with the car, there's nothing about it that really jumps out to you. The ride isn't particularly smooth or supple. The powertrain isn't particularly strong. There's nothing really noteworthy about the car. Everything is just a solid passing grade. You're talking C student, B student sort of thing. And the thing is, for, let's say if Toyota came out with a car like this, it'd be kind of a head scratcher and kind of like, oof, Toyota, what are you doing? But we're talking about Mitsubishi here, a brand that's really lost its way over the last 15 years. So it's kind of like you have to give Mitsubishi extra credit because they haven't been coming out with C tier or B tier cars recently. They've been coming out with F and E and maybe D tier cars. So for them to put out a product onto their showroom floor that still has their 10-year powertrain warranty, that's still priced competitively, looks kind of neat. It's a little bit out there, but still looks pretty cool. It's totally Japan built. You got to give them a little credit for that, and you have to appreciate the car maybe just that much more. It's one of those products that if someone were to just come up to me and ask, hey Charlie, what compact crossover should I buy? It probably wouldn't be the top of my list. It might not even come up. But if somebody came up to me and said, hey Charlie, I really like the looks of that new Mitsubishi Outlander, what can you tell me about it? I'd say, yeah, it's a fine car. It's going to get you decent gas mileage. It's got competent all-wheel drive. You might want to put some new tires on it if you're going to spend a lot of time in the winter. But it's got pretty much everything you need. It's going to keep you and your family safe and be a totally competent driver. And again, if you're one of those people that are really motivated by appearances, by both this cool orangish brown interior with the quilted leather and the big 20-inch wheels outside and everything, if those are the type of things that really get you to put money down on a car, yeah, you could do a lot worse than this. Not a huge fan of the powertrain. You listen here, that's full throttle. This little motor's got to work. Not dealing with any turbos to help fill in torque or anything. It's just a naturally breathing engine. Doesn't make a whole bunch of power, and it is mated up to a CVT that's pretty easy to stumble. If you slam on the brakes and then get on the gas, transmission takes a while to figure out what in the world it's doing. If you're accelerating onto, say, a 55-mile-an-hour road from something like a U-turn, or you're merging onto a highway, you'll find yourself putting the pedal all the way down just to get this car up to speed at a reasonable pace. For a commuter car, I don't really mind that. It certainly hasn't been the type of thing where in all of our just casual commuting type of driving and road tripping this week, I've never felt like we're lacking in power. But you should know that compared to some of its competitors, it's not fast. It really isn't. This is a pretty minor complaint, but something I noticed driving it for a while, especially at night on the highway. The center screen doesn't quite go dark enough. I found myself making my adjustments in Apple CarPlay and then actually turning the screen all the way off using that button, holding it for a few seconds. Fortunately, the screen does go entirely black then. It turns off the backlight, and you can turn the center digital gauge display down pretty low, but it is a shame that I wasn't able to make, maybe it's just CarPlay because CarPlay is kind of a brighter interface, but when I was using that, I couldn't turn it down low enough to be comfortable for driving at night. Another thing is this shifter. This whole center layout is really quite a waste of space. If you look at everything, you got your wireless device charger here, nothing here. This is a huge gap that could have been used with even just a vertical phone slot or something. This is not a bad utilization of space, although they could have moved the parking brake control maybe over here, gotten rid of that. This drive mode selector could have easily just been a subtle button somewhere up here, and then the shifter could have been this rotary knob. I know Ford and Chrysler tend to get some flack for their rotary knob shifters, but I think they're an incredibly useful and well-utilized bit of space. And then that would have freed up this entire area for storage. Instead, you have this rinky-dink, rattly-ass shifter that doesn't feel great in the hands, and it's not that hard to use, but it doesn't feel premium. And it's kind of a shame, because everything else that you touch regularly in this car really doesn't feel too bad. The blinkers, the window switches, the door handle, they inspire a good amount of quality. If they could do something with this shifter, and I know that's on Nissan, it's actually not Mitsubishi's fault, it's Nissan's fault, but they could make that feel just nicer enough to use and utilize this space better. So small complaint, but one nonetheless. At the end of the day, Mitsubishi just needed a car to get them back on the map and get them relevant and make their products worth buying. I know it's a little harsh to say, Jeremy, if you're watching this, you're doing a good job so far because you're getting them in the right direction and you're getting a product now that's recommendable. There's nothing wrong with it. I spent a good 10 to 12 hours in this car, actually, including my highway fuel economy test and everything, probably more closer to 14 hours in this car. And I've got no reason not to like it at this point. It's a little bland. After you get past the styling, it's from the driving perspective and the ownership perspective, it's just a car. But millions and millions and millions of people in this world just need a car, and this is going to check a lot of boxes for them. So in the crazy times right now where you might not be able to get your hands on so many different vehicles, maybe go down to your nearest Mitsubishi dealer and check out the Outlander. It's got a lot to like. It really does. And I'm not just saying that to be nice to Mitsubishi. I would tell you guys if I didn't care for the car. It's not what I would buy, but I'm just not the target buyer. I don't think I'd really buy anything in this class except for our Tesla, which is a compact crossover also. And I will say I would definitely pick it over the Nissan Rogue. Another thing I will say is I like the different sounds it makes. I like the blinker. I like the weird little chimes that in a lot of cars they make stupid. This one actually doesn't sound too bad. So, a lot of things right for the Mitsubishi Outlander. It's a car at the end of the day, but it's a much better car than the previous gen Outlander, and maybe not class leading, but certainly class relevant. For any of you who own Outlanders, I do want to mention, I've found multiple times, and Chris mentioned it as well, you go ahead and press the stop start button and the car doesn't actually start. It turns on, but the engine doesn't engage. So if you've noticed that at all, let us know in the comments. I'm curious if that's just our car or if that's something that's been happening to more people. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Outlander, check the link in the description. If you want to yell at me for my parking job, do that in the comments. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.